We all know the classic fairy tales, the simple stories of good versus evil told to children. These comforting tales are twisted into something unrecognizable and deeply unsettling. This is the story of a familiar fable that spirals into a found footage nightmare of psychological torment and brutal violence. Hi everyone, I'm Not Whelm, and today we're breaking down the complete terrifying story of The Wolf and the Seven Little Goats. We'll follow the events of this twisted fairy tale, explain the horrifying game of hide and seek, and analyze the final shocking revelation that changes everything. Our story begins inside a small wooden house in a dark forest. Mother Goat informs her 7 children that she must go out to gather food. Before she leaves, she gives them a strict and vital warning. Do not, under any circumstances, open the door for anyone. She explains that the big bad wolf is loose in the forest and he is very dangerous. To help them, she gives them a clear set of rules to identify the predator. She tells them the wolf has a gruff voice, haunting eyes, and clawed hands. Confident, one of the kids tells her not to worry. With that, Mother Goat says her goodbyes and heads into the woods. Some time passes and the children begin to worry. Just then, a knock comes at the door. A deep, horribly distorted voice calls out,
"Let me, little children. Your mother is here waiting for you."
Remembering their mother's warning, the kids correctly identify the gruff voice as the wolf's and refuse to let him in, telling him to go away. And for a moment, it seems the mother's lesson has worked. Inside the house, the remaining children wait in terror, clinging to the hope that the locked door will protect them. They pass their mother's test, outsmarting the wolf with his gruff voice. But the wolf of this story is about to change the rules. Looking through the window, his haunting eyes survey the room, and he decides to abandon all clever tricks for pure terrifying brute force. With a deafening crash, the wolf smashes directly through the window of the house, invading the children's only safe space. The flimsy barrier of wood and glass shatters, and so does the very concept of the house as a sanctuary. The rules their mother gave them about voices and locked doors are now useless. The monster is inside. Once inside, the wolf immediately reveals his true monstrous form, a hulking, muscular beast covered in bloodstains. This isn't just a predator anymore, it's a demon. A sinister game begins with a simple, terrifying instruction appearing on screen. The wolf is here. Hide. The wolf isn't just here to kill, he's here to play, turning the children's final moments into his own cruel sport. The terrified children scatter in a panic, desperately trying to find safety in a grandfather clock, under a bed, and in a wardrobe. But there is no safety to be found. What follows is a brutal hide-and-seek style massacre, as the wolf begins to hunt them down one by one, severing their fear before the final violent kill. But one survives. The youngest goat manages to hide successfully and outlast the wolf's rampage. He finds a camera and decides to document what has happened, hoping to show the footage to some local authority if we make it out alive. With his new purpose, he flees the house, and the video shifts to a terrifying found footage sequence of him running for his life through the dark forest. But this is where the story takes its final bizarre twist. As the goat runs, he is pursued by the wolf, but by a new, even more terrifying form. A tall, humanoid entity with stark white skin and distorted inhuman features, who eventually catches and kills him, the camera feed cutting to static. The video then cuts to a horrifying vision of the afterlife. We see one of the disfigured goat children in a red, empty void asking, "Where am I?" He is then confronted by the spirits of his dead siblings and his mother. They tell him, "You are dead, son." "We are." When he asks about his mom and brothers, they deliver a chilling final message. "The wolf has caught us. Now our souls belong to her." The scene then cuts to a tall, shadowy figure with glowing eyes, revealing the wolf was merely a pawn for an even greater, unknown entity. We then get one final shocking scene. We see an old television set displaying static. An image appears of a man in a hat, who says to a woman named Gretel, "Hey Gretel, I'm going to hunt a wolf. I'll be back soon." The woman replies, "Right, Hansel." And we then see the man Hansel pick up an AK-47 rifle before the footage ends. So what does this all mean? This is a terrifying version of the classic fairy tale, but when you dig deeper, it's an analog horror that explains how twisting the familiar is one of the most effective ways to create fear. The story's horror works on several layers, starting with its visual style. The video constantly plays with our expectations by contrasting innocent 2D storybook animations with unsettling 3D models and graphically violent imagery. This is apparent with the wolf's brutal home invasion. By smashing through the window, the wolf abandons all pretense of a classic fairy tale trickster and becomes a raw, unstoppable force of nature. This act shatters the very concept of the home as a safe space, explaining that locks and rules are meaningless against true, determined evil. The next layer of horror comes from the theme of surveillance and found footage. When the youngest goat survives the initial massacre, his first instinct is to find a camera. He explicitly states his goal is to record what happened to show the footage to the authorities. This is a crucial moment because it reframes the narrative within the story itself as a piece of evidence. The shaky, terrifying escape through the forest becomes a found footage film, making the horror feel more immediate and real. But the story adds another terrifying layer even after death. The vision of the afterlife reveals that the wolf was never the true master. When the dead children are reunited, they explain their fate was a chilling message. The wolf has cut us, now our souls belong to her. This introduces a new unseen matriarch of evil, a shadowy female entity who is the real power in the forest. It explains that the wolf was merely a pawn, a collector of souls for a greater, more sinister being, adding a whole new dimension to the supernatural hierarchy of this world. And that brings us to the final shocking revelation that explains the context of this entire nightmare. The video ends on an old television set, revealing the footage we've been watching was recovered. We see two people, Hansel and Gretel, who have clearly just finished watching the last goat's terrifying tape. After witnessing the horrifying events, Hansel stands, picking up his AK-47 rifle, and tells Gretel, "I'm going to hunt a wolf. I'll be back soon." It's no longer just a fairy tale. It's evidence that has triggered a revenge mission. The wolf Hansel is now hunting is almost certainly not a simple animal, but the monstrous creature from the tape. The found footage has become the catalyst for a new human-led monster hunt, turning the tragedy of the 7 goats into the beginning of an even darker story. But let me know your theories. Drop by your thoughts down in the comments, and if you enjoyed this dive into the twisted fairy tale, please be sure to smash that like button, share, and subscribe for more explorations of dark and fascinating analog horrors. Thanks for watching, I'm Matt Whelm, and I'll catch you on the next one. Stay safe, and don't open the door for strangers.